and welcome to Rosberry Crafts, my YouTube channel where I share all my crafty adventures. Today I have a special episode for you. This is an interview with two of my very good knitting friends, Emily and Karla. This was my first opportunity to record through Zoom, and the sound quality, I'm going to work on it. It's not 100% how I would want it to be, so I would like to apologize for any loudness or quietness. And I will try to put any information up on the screen of the things that we talked about. We talk about a lot of different things, but I will try to put all that information up on the screen for you and down below in the show notes. There were a few interruptions, as you may understand if you have children in your lives. So there are a few places where I've had to cut and we kind of jump back in, and it might be a bit choppy. But I hope that you enjoy this interview with the girls from Relentless Knitting. Okay, good. All right, for today's interview, we have the girls from Relentless Knitting. Karla, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Sure. My name's Karla. I'm also known as Karla Crafts on Instagram, and on Ravelry, it's K-R-A-E or K-Ray. It's a nickname my dad gave me when I was really little. And I knit relentlessly.
And I'm Emily. I'm Emily. I'm also known as Emily Tech Edits on Ravelry and Emily the Tech Editor on Instagram. And I'm the other half of the Relentless Knitting Company podcast.
Yeah. So we'll just kind of start with the questions. The first one I had for you guys was, when did you start knitting or crocheting or any of the yarny things?
I'll go first.
Perfect.
So I've been knitting for about a dozen years now. So if we have to math, would it be 2009?
Before that, I think. Because I met you, I think, in 2008, and you were knitting then.
So then longer. So, 15 years, maybe? That's horrifying. I really wanted to learn how to knit socks. And so I saw a sock knitting book at Chapters, I think. And I picked that up, and then I just coveted it. And then I went to the local yarn shop. I figured out where it was, and they didn't have a sock knitting class right then. So I took a mitten class, and she assured me that I would be able to knit socks with that information. And then that was it. It was, it's become an obsession.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. And I started crocheting at a really young age. My grandmother had me making those butterfly fridge magnets. You essentially make like a doily or a granny square. They're not squares, they're like scalloped. And then you fold it in half and put a twist tie through it and a magnet on it. And you got yourself a fridge magnet for the church bazaar. And so it's just always kind of been in my hands. Yarn has always been in my hands. And then I think I knit a scarf when I was in high school for a friend that, went like this and was 12 feet long. And so it was just like, if this is knitting, I don't want to do that. That's too much. So it wasn't until 2008, like I said, that I met Emily. I was doing my practicum as a high school teacher, and she was TOCing, which is a teacher on call, in the class that was my practicum class. So I was teaching it. But she had to be there as the certified teacher. So she sat in the back and knit socks. And so her and I got to talking about knitting. And pretty much, I think that evening I got online and found a class at the yarn store and started knitting after that. And then, Emily, we didn't exchange numbers or anything that day, I don't think. We ran into each other at a knit night.
Yeah, I think one of the knit and chats at Roz, because Roz was, you were pregnant.
Yeah.
With my now almost 11-year-old?
Yeah. So that's what made so much sense. I think I met you right before your son was born.
Yeah.
That
was 2010. He was born in March of 2010. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I know.
And I think things just sort of progressed. We just kept on knitting together, and we got a knit and chat started. I think one of the ones we were going to sort of died down, and then we got one started. We kept on going and like inviting people all the time. And then one day, all of a sudden, there was nobody and nobody and nobody. And then all of a sudden, one day, there was like 6 people showed up, and we were like, yeah, so excited. It was thrilling.
Yeah. No, it's that's definitely like I remember fondly like going to the coffee shops, even when I had Cooper in like the stroller, and I'd bring him along and be like, knit 2 stitches and then have to deal with him. I still think fondly of all of that time, even though we're a bit further apart now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, that's good. All right, so on to question number 2. What has been your most favorite project to date? Either knitting or crochet or spinning, which I know both of you do, weaving.
I totally forgot about spinning. I think my favorite project is the Friendship Shawl by Sylvia McFadden.
Beautiful.
And this is just, it's like wrapping yourself up in a warm blanket. I used the same yarn that she used in her sample. And I think I put it all up at Knit City one year and then came home and knitted immediately. And it's just like, it's a nice knit, fast knit, because it's thick yarn. And then it's like always on my couch and I wear it all the time.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, her patterns are so intuitive, I find, like the lace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then plus she's just like, she's a lovely individual. We've met her a bunch of times at Knit City, and like, I just can't help but like, I enjoy supporting her, and like, plus it's beautiful stuff, and like, there's just no losing.
Yeah. This is going to be a pretty Sylvia McFadden heavy podcast for because this is Fossil and Bone by Sylvia McFadden. I had a hard time picking a favorite. So this is Fossil and Bone, and it's out of Sweet Fiber Cashmerino worsted. So it's so squishy. It's probably like, I think this was my first like real yarn purchase where it was like an indulgent purchase. So yeah, I love it. I wear it all the time. But then my most worn piece is probably my Weekender by Andrea Mowry. Is that the name? Did I get the right name right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's Weekender.
Yep.
Sorry, Anne?
That's the Weekender.
Yeah. So this is knit in Briggs and Little Regal. Briggs and Little is a Canadian, or even, I think is it in BC or Alberta, Briggs and Little?
I thought it was on the east side of the country.
Okay, yeah. I'm thinking of Custom Woolen Mills, which is also Canadian, but closer. But sorry, so this is Briggs and Little Regal, and it's very rustic yarn, but it's all Canadian yarn, and it's such an affordable yarn. It's about $6 a ball. So I think this sweater only cost me like in the range of $50 to knit.
It's not bad at all.
Not bad at all for a sweater. So, and I wear it all the time. I love it. So
do you find the neckline is too high on it? With the
yeah, Emily and I talk a lot about our super sternal notch and how we don't like to have sweaters or necklines right up against there. So yeah, if I were to knit it again, I would probably maybe add even some more short rows to the back. I do have a hard time like figuring out which way is front and which way is back. So it isn't until I put it on that I'm like, no, that doesn't feel right. And I turn around, I'm like, no, that feels worse. And then I turn it back around. Like, okay, we're just going to commit to this side as the front today. But I believe that like the ribbing is supposed to be longer in the back than in the front, but just the way this yarn is so bouncy and has such good memory, it's hard to tell, but I still love it more than any other sweater in my chest here.
Yeah, because I've looked at that one a lot. But I've never I don't like things right up at my neck. Even my shawls I wear like fairly loose here. So I worry about that kind of neckline. And then if it's bothering me, I'm just not going to wear it. Right.
Yeah. It's a trade-off because I love how drop sleeve fits over a raglan. Yeah. So I really love the fit of this one more than a raglan sweater. So yeah, I wear like a crew neck long sleeve under it, and it seems to be okay. I get used to it pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right. So number 3 is tell me about your most disastrous project.
I don't know if it's like the most disastrous. Like it turned out really well in the end, but
Even
it was
something with a story is good.
like it took me like 2 years to knit, and I ripped it out a bunch of times, and then like a bug ate it, I think, and that was what I wanted to finish when the pandemic started. And so, hey, guess what? It's Sylvia McFadden. And it is a joyful thread. And so you might be able to see the pattern on it. But it's huge.
It's square.
So it's a square, and it's my wingspan when it's stretched, and I'm 6 feet tall. But it's beautiful. It was a pain, and I got halfway through it, and then I left it for a while, and something ate it, and then I ripped it out, and then I got halfway through it, and then my gauge was off, so I think I used bigger needles, and then I finally started doing it again, and I was like, I will not knit anything else until this thing is done. And I don't wear it very often, but I admire it constantly.
Yeah.
And it's of sweet fiber merino lace, I think, in rose gold, and it's exactly the same yarn as in the book, and I love it, but it was a beast.
Yes, it was.
It was a beast.
Yeah, it's more of like a showstopper.
Yeah, and but where am I going that I'm going to wear a stunning lace shawl these days, right? Like, finish it mid-pandemic. It's not like I think Dan and I went out for dinner one time, and I wore it because I just finished it. But that was and it was definitely socially distant dining, and we haven't been out since then. So I'll wear it again, but not right now.
Yeah. I couldn't think of a most disastrous one. Emily, can you I know I have troubles with every single one of them.
All of them. Something always happens. I can't think of anything that was extreme for you, but there's a little bit of something rather in everything.
Yeah. So I was trying to think, and I was digging through I have the laptop sitting on my cedar chest that I have with all my finished objects in it. And I pulled out this guy because this was one of my first spinning projects. And it's 100% Polworth. And Emily, you and I picked it up remember when we flew down to Fibers West with the kids in the car and back in the same day when we were on maternity leave? So I'm pretty sure it was that Fibers West that I picked it up. It was 2 braids of Polworth that I spun singles and all the way through the braid, which isn't the best way to spin a comb top. And then with Polworth, I really had to draft it. I really had to pull it out. So my wrists and my elbows were really sore spinning this. But I got it done and plied the 2 bobbins. I think I had 4 bobbins actually. So the yarn broke somewhere around here, and then applied them together. And then this is Myra Canyon Cowl by Knox Mountain Knit Co. And I just love how it turned out. So it was worth the pain in my wrist spinning it to get the cowl in the end.
It's beautiful.
And I've forgotten the dyer now, but it doesn't matter because she's not dyeing anymore.
Beautiful.
So that's that one.
Yeah.
I got one more. It's not a disaster, but kind of like my, what is it? Magnum Opus is this little sweater that I knit for my first son. And the pattern itself is a free pattern on Ravelry. And it's knit back and forth. So you're doing color work back and forth. And you can see some of these rows have 3 colors in them, which is awful on the knit side and horrendous on the purl side. And then I decided that I wanted the caribou or the moose and the flower or the snowflake poinsettia, I guess, in different colors. So I had bobbins hanging to do intarsia color work in here. And then I got all the pieces done. And one of my sleeves was missing these little fleur-de-lis. So I had to duplicate stitch the little fleur-de-lis all the way around the sweater. But I finally got it done. And Emily gave me these moose buttons for one knit miss one year. So they just went perfect with this little sweater for my first son. So yeah, again, just like nothing really went wrong. That wasn't like devastating, but it took, for a tiny sweater, it took a long time.
Yeah. A lot of
I had
work.
these socks I made for Sock Madness, and I made an error, like their toe up. I made an error like right here and didn't realize it till I was up here and had to drop down the side of this lace panel and pick it all back up so I could submit my socks. That was a doozy to, and like you're also on a time crunch, right?
Yeah.
I remember too when you made 2 right-handed mitts and you had to like move the thumb.
Yeah. I did move a thumb hole. I am still proud of that. I am very proud of being able to move a thumb hole.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, that was quite the thing because you had to like drop down to the thumb hole, put those stitches back up, and then drop down and make a thumb hole.
Yeah, I just did it like with waste yarn, and then you could like pull it over. It worked out. It wasn't that hard to do, but it was like way better than ripping back a whole glove.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are those aha moments. Like the what was it, like 4 days ago, I realized that I knit a sweater sleeve with the wrong needle. Like I knit the whole sleeve because I did my neckline on a 4.5, and then I switched one needle to the 5, but forgot to switch the other, right? Because you do that first round, you don't want to be slipping your big needle through the little stitches. Did you lose your sound, Karla?
Yeah, or I don't know if I ever had it to begin with.
Oh.
Earbuds for the fat shaft.
So I kept on knitting my sweater, and I knit the body of it, and it's fine because you're still knitting, you're making your stitches with the big needle, right? And then I stopped the body because I was going to knit my sleeves while the body was still short, and I must have like swapped my needles around, and so I knit and I pushed all the stitches onto the big needle every time I magic looped, and then knit them with the small needle the whole way up until I tried to change my needles to do my ribbing on my cuff, and I was like, and then, just a mass of 4-letter words that it just came out, and then I got my ball winder out and went straight to work.
Oh, yeah.
New sleeve.
Yeah. Yeah, I posted on Instagram last month about the sock that I knit practically the whole thing, and I went to try it on, and I couldn't even get it over the ball of my foot. Like, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. The same stitch count, the same needle was in the bag, I think, but maybe not. I don't know, because sometimes I just move them around randomly. Right?
Yeah.
I haven't erase your socks off, wasn't it? The magenta and
No.
chartreuse socks.
Oh, I did have an issue with those ones. I don't remember which ones.
But Emily made color work socks.
Oh yeah, those ones. No, I made them for Dan, maybe.
They're like magenta and chartreuse color work, and they were too tight. Yeah, there they are. Those ones.
I'm sitting on my cedar chest too right now, so I've got my.
There you go.
Yeah, I knit these ones, and they were too tight. I got all the way to here, and then they were too tight, and I had to go back and redo all my color work. But they're beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of good projects, lots of big mistakes, but lots of good projects in the end.
Yeah, I did a test knit for Marsha recently for those dream mitts. And but the way the thumb is, you don't need a right and a left thumb. You can put them on whatever hand. So I knit them 2 at a time. And then as I finished them, I was like, oh no, I made 2 right hand ones. But then when I put them on, I was like, oh no, it's all good. It's all good.
It's all good.
She wrote it. Because it didn't say, it just said make another one. It didn't say, there was no directions for like right hand and left hand. But you knit test knitting, you're like on a deadline-ish, right? And I'm like, oh no, I made 2 of the wrong ones. But it was fine. They're great actually, because she just uses ribbing to expand for the thumb gusset.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it works great for a fingerless mitt. I think we'll move on to question 4 now. So we got, how do you store your stash?
My stash is in a big glass IKEA cabinet. So that's most of my sock yarn, my sweater quantities, and then on the very bottom is like project bags and things like that, because I didn't want to have anything like on ground level, because I have had problems with bugs in the past. And then anything that's stored in a bin is stored in like what were they, 0.5 millimeter plastic bags that we bought. I think Karla got a bunch. Did you get some of those too, Roz?
Yeah, I got a bunch too.
Sarah got those for us.
Yeah, so that's how everything's stored. All of my fiber is in a large cabinet downstairs, and then there's several fleeces at the top of it, and then there's some scrap yarn or like partial skeins that are stored in a big bin within bags, and then there's another bin of stuff that's under the bed downstairs.
So you don't have to divulge everything. It's okay.
I think that's it. I think what is most overwhelming for me is the amount of fiber that I have and the fact that I haven't been spinning at all. So I've got like several fleeces that all of my fleeces are washed now, but they all need to be carded and spun. And there's it's daunting.
Yeah.
How's your stash stored?
Mine's stored in the big, like, they're not Rubbermaid, but they are those big totes, like the 62-liter totes that have like the lids clip on and seal shut. So it's not just like it's not like a Rubbermaid tote where you just put a lid on it, but it's actually like airtight. So it's all in there. And we have a really old house, and as you can see, like the roof line kind of pitches, and so we have these like storage cubbies in the roof line, and my whole stash is behind my bed in my master bedroom. Which is good. It was kind of in a bunch of other places, but now it's right, like, this is my master bedroom. And then the house is 110 years old, and there's been additions to it over its lifetime. And one of the additions was creating a room off the master that we think was probably for a nursery, but I've adopted it as my like office, studio, craft room. So it's really nice that my stash is just right there, and I can pull it out and put it on the bed and sort through what I need and then put it away, and I'm just in the same room. So that's really nice. And I only have, and I store it, I should also mention, to by weight. So I have a bin for fingering weight, a bin for worsted, a bin for DK and bulky, etc. But then I also have a bin for like sweater quantities of worsted and DK. So they're not in with like the single skeins. And so then I have a bin of braids for spinning. And then I think I have a couple of bins of fleece. I don't know about that fleece. It might just need to be composted. I washed it all 2 summers ago, and it's just been in the bins in the back.
So we'll move on to question 5. What is your favorite color, and do you often work with that color?
I think you should go first.
Mine is the color of magic. This like purple mauve eggplant color is like my jam. So I'm really into it lately. But so here's one of my whips. This is the Autumn League pullover, and it's knit in. What is this? Something tweed. It's a ball of yarn. I wonder if I have a ball band in here. Sorry about that. That's anticlimactic, isn't it?
That's all good.
Oh, this is what it is. Deluxe DK tweed super wash that I got on a sweater quantity on sale. So when it's on sale and it's your favorite color, you buy it. But yeah, I knit a lot in this color, and I often will gravitate towards the like eggplant dark purpley black colors or a purple gray color.
I would say I don't knit with my favorite colors. I really like corals and purples, and I don't think that I really knit with them a ton. Right now I'm knitting yellow and blue. I made that sweater last winter that's I don't know where it is. I think it's downstairs, but it's like fuchsia, and I love that one. But I've been like, my sweaters have mostly been like gray and black. My socks are all over the map of what I'm knitting for those. But yeah, I would say I don't usually knit with my favorite colors. I've got lots of yarn and stash, but then I think that they're so special, but I don't want it. They're like those magic skeins, right? I'm like, oh, I love this so much, and then I can't quite decide what to make with it. So I've got a lot of really nice yarn that I don't use.
You knit a lot with orange and yellows and pinks. You like bright colors more than muted colors?
Yeah, I think so. I've definitely been like, I'm knitting on it now, so I'm super excited about it, but I love the colors in this sweater.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes our favorite color isn't necessarily something we want next to our face either, right? Like,
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. What does your husband and your family think about you knitting?
They think I do it too much. Well, I don't think they mind it really. Question. Oh, my family. What does my family think about knitting?
Yes, they're obviously very enthusiastic.
I think they think. Pardon me?
They're obviously very enthusiastic about it.
Yes. Dan has been wearing his sweater that I made him, the Jane Richmond one. He's been wearing it lots, so I think I'm going to make him another one of those. So like, I think they always want me to knit them something, and so I think they like it. I think sometimes they get a little frustrated that I'm like, no, I'm doing this right now. I want to have my time to do knitting, but if it wasn't knitting, it would be something else. So I think it's just finding that balance. But I definitely get riled about, Mommy, you're always knitting, or you don't need to finish your row, Mommy. I'm like, yes.
You don't know me.
You don't know me. They do know me. They're like, Mommy, you got to finish your row. I'm like, yes. Like, okay.
My family cares very much. It's pretty much been something that I've done since I met Mark early on in meeting Mark. So it's just part of my personality and what I do. And then the boys, they love it. They love receiving the gift, like the knits. And they both asked to learn in it. So I'm starting to teach them. Ren, who's, how old's Ren? He's 4. He's knitting on a loom, like that we made out of a soup can and popsicle sticks. And Locke's actually got the in through the front door, once around the back, peek through the window, off jumps Jack, because we have Annie and the Swiss cheese scarf. It's a book. And they love to read that one. We have lots of like kids knitting books too. There's one called Ned the Knitting Pirate that I absolutely recommend.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, very good. So yeah, no, it's just part of who we are. So
yeah, I agree.
Good. So we talked a little bit already about knitting in public, that we met at coffee shops and stuff like that. But so I'm assuming we'll just answer that with, none of us are afraid to knit in public or anything.
I knit everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere I go. If I don't have knitting on me when I leave my house, unless I'm going to the grocery store in Souk, I have knitting. And if I don't, I'm always worried like the road's going to close and I'm not going to have any knitting and I'm going to be sitting in my car with nothing to do.
See, and I have a project in the console of my car. It's been there for 6 years and it's just like a sock tube. But I'm so afraid to be without it that I have emergency projects stashed around.
Yeah, exactly.
Precisely.
Yeah. And we already talked about how you guys met, so we'll skip that one. And so number 9 is, what inspired you to start your podcast?
I don't know.
Either, actually.
I think we liked knitting so much that we talked about it all the time. We were like, well, why don't we talk about it and just record it and then see if anybody listens to us?
Yeah, so ours is an audio podcast, and you can find it on any podcatcher. So wherever you get your podcast, it's called Relentless Knitting Podcast. And we've been doing it since before our first children were born. And we were a lot more regular then. And now we're not as regular. As you can probably see, as this video has been stitched together, it's because we get interrupted by our kids a lot. So we just do it when we have time, but that doesn't mean we don't talk to each other every day about knitting. I was thinking, like, you know, blogs are kind of a thing of the past, but we could post our chats together and it would just be the same thing. Like, it's constant. Check out this pattern that I found, or what do you think of this idea? Like, Emily and two of our other friends, Jocelyn and Michelle, are in a group chat with us, and we're constantly bouncing ideas off of each other, and they will test knit for me when I have like a little pattern idea and stuff like that. So it's we're always in it.
Yeah, I would say that outlet, like that, I've met some of my best friends through knitting, and those have been some of my, like, this last year has been tough, right, for everybody, but I found like that's what I do is I rely on that. And like, you know, we all go on there and we'll just like, all of a sudden you'll see like a paragraph from somebody and you're like, oh no, what happened? And like, but you don't know if like their knitting went wrong or their life went wrong or like something happened, but like, it's just been that my therapy, right? Like that's where I go to get it all out, especially when you're cooped up and you can't go out. Like I used to be able to, we had knit night here and we'd go to the pub and have pints and drink and knit, and then we'd all get it all out, and we don't have that this year. So it's been something that it's invaluable. I don't think I would be in the same place if I didn't have it.
Yeah. So our podcast is less of like the getting it all out and more, we're more structured in like what we're knitting on, what we finish, that kind of stuff. And we've run a couple of knit alongs that were really successful. We did, what was the one that Commit to Knit was one that Emily ran.
We'll mail prizes one day.
Yes. Yeah. Emily still hasn't mailed out prizes, and that was like 3 years ago. And then, yeah, we've just had some just ongoing knit alongs and stuff like that, but it has died off a little bit. We're hoping to get it picked back up probably when our kids are both in like full-time school. Maybe we'll find some time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, as you can see, crazy. Because we have littles that are about the same age. Our oldest are only a 2 month and a half apart, and then our youngest are about 18 months apart.
Yeah.
It's definitely I don't want to say it gets better when they get older, but there's definitely more blocks of time where there's less interruption.
Yeah.
So just different issues as they get older, you know.
Exactly.
You guys know though, being teachers, that, you know, it's just different issues as they get into that adolescent phase, right?
Totally. Patience.
It's all good. We're down to the last question. So, the last question I had. So what are you currently working on?
Oh, I don't know what it's called, but it's lovely. Hold on. Let me show you. I'm making a sweater, and I've got a pair of socks on the go downstairs, but this is my like.
It's beautiful.
I am so in love. And also, you need to see these. Those are my stitch markers. A local jeweler in town makes them. Her name is Lainey Ray, and they're sold at our local yarn shop. And some of them happened to find their way into my stocking this year, and I'm so in love with them. This is, one moment, please. I don't even know what the yarn is. It's a workhorse yarn. It wasn't that expensive. It was like $70, $80 for a sweater quantity.
I thought you did Cascade for that.
Maybe it is Cascade. It could be. I feel like maybe it is Cascade 220. The sweater is Forest Land by Jen Steingass. Hold on, let me see if I can.
Nice. It's so good.
Yeah, I'm super happy with how it's knitting up. And I just started my second sleeve. So the first sleeve took me 3 evenings of knitting. So I'm hoping I can get this one done in 2. And then it's already a crop. So I should be able to finish it up hopefully in like the next week or so. But I'm so happy with it. I think I bought 3 patterns of hers at the same time. And so I'll probably cast on another one, depending on what I can find in my stash.
Yeah, cool.
What are you making, Karla?
Good.
Well, I showed that autumn leg pullover, and that sweater is the one that I have at school. It sits on my desk, and then like as I'm waiting for kids to fill in notes or at lunchtime or whatever, I get a couple stitches in here and there. And then this is the Sylvia McFadden show, so it's only appropriate that I show her new sweater. So she has designed a sweater that's knit cuff to cuff. So you start at the cuff and you knit the sleeve, and then you cast on stitches for the front and the back, and then you split them for the neck. So I have 2 balls, so I'm going back and forth front and back, and then it'll repeat that backwards. So seal up the neck, do the shoulder, do the sleeve, and then you're done. Bingo bango. It's called Baleen. And I can't get enough of it. I love it. The only hard part about it is I'm finding the purl rows hard, and I'm wondering like what's changed in my body that the purl rows are.
Oh yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so the test knitters, some of them are starting to finish now, and they're posting some beautiful photos, and I just can't get enough of it. So yeah, that's what I've mostly been working on, but bandwidth in the evenings and stuff like that make it so, you know, it's not really conducive to lace when I'm so tired. But
yeah,
I got a lot done over this long weekend, so that's good. And then I always have things going in my mind for my own designs. So I think I just texted you guys, be like, I have this slipper pattern in my brain and I want to knit it, but I have 32 either started or queued projects like ready to go. So veering off of that, I have to really convince myself that it's worth it, which, you know, part of it is like, do I have the yarn already? Cool, then like I feel good about starting something new if I have the yarn already. But so anyways, I thought I flashed this. This is one of my hat patterns. It's called Hellebore, and it's knit from the top down. So you cast on here and then do some increases, and it's 1x1 rib, and it makes a really cute like watch cap style, and with the folded brim or a slouch without. And then this is my COVID designing, and it was all about the top down because I don't like to have little bits of scraps. That's not something that I like to have laying around. So I wanted to be able to use like as much of the yarn as possible. So knit top down basically until you have about like 3 times the length of your circumference left. And then it's a, what is this called? Tubular bind off. These are also knit fingertips down. These are called the City Light knits. So from the fingertips down, and there is a left and right mitten to this one. So watch out for that. But another mitten pattern, Roz, that you could knit 2 at a time. It's pretty easy to figure that one out. And then, and with COVID, the local yarn shop here started doing like a monthly knitters collection that was released on the full moon of every month. So this was the first one that went out. And then this was the October one that went out. So these are called flight. What did I call these, Emily? Night flight gloves?
yes,
Basically a fingerless glove that again starts at the fingers in fingering weight yarn, and then you knit basically until you have them the length you want them or you run out of yarn. So those are some of the things that I got off the needles this year that I'm super proud of, and kind of like launched me into this whole designing idea.
Yeah. And which yarn store is that?
Colonial Yarn and Needlecraft.
Learning of it. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, I think that's it for today. Do you guys have any other questions? Anything else you want to talk about?
I don't. Sorry, I was getting a phone call for work, so
It's all good.
I apologize. Why did you decide to do a podcast? I haven't watched the first one. Sorry.
That's okay.
But
I don't know that I've really talked about why I wanted to do it. But yeah, it's something that's just been rolling around in my head for a long time. I enjoy watching them, and I enjoy kind of seeing the progress and seeing bits of other people's lives get inserted into it and all that kind of stuff. So, so the job that I work at now is for a landscape company. And so we closed down the office, at the end of November, and we don't open up again until March. So I'm like, well, I have extra time to do it now. So if things were slowing down at work. So I was like, oh, I'll add something else in at home instead. I do plan to keep doing it, although I missed my last regular 2-week thing. So this Friday will be it'll be a month, but as life goes sometimes. But yeah, no, I'm just enjoying, and I think it's partly that that outlet of talking about your knitting and just having a space to explore that, so because my husband can only listen so long. He is very
Dan's getting really good. Dan's getting really good at knitting terminology. So
Yeah.
do you have to block that when you're done?
Yeah, very good.
Look at you.
I still think we should have like a knitter's husband's trivia night.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That'd
Okay.
That'd be awesome.
All right. I am going to let you go.
Yep, sounds good. We
Thank
will
you
leave
so
there.
much for having us, and I'm sure I'll talk to you guys soon.
Yeah, sounds good.
Bye.
Bye, Emily. I hope you enjoyed that interview. I certainly had fun hanging out virtually with my knitting friends. And if you are looking for any of the information we talked about, it is linked below in the show notes. And if it is not linked below, please feel free to send me a message and I'd be happy to pass along the information to you. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.